Remember, being qualified, you have to have the education, right, training or experience, or a combination thereof. Here we go again. Continuing on our sourcing for the Hunt and Co-Manufacturer and Co-Packer Part 3, complaint management. So on the complaint management, obviously, make sure they have a complaint management program of how they, record and resolve complaints, how they handle them. And also the most important part is investigation and how they are reducing the recurring complaint levels. Other aspect of it is trending or trendable data. You're going to want to ask those information, what do they trend for those? Are they using a software, just an Excel spreadsheet and whatnot? So kind of take a look at that because you're going to need some reports on that. And also, how are they going to handle your complaint, right? Because you're handling it from your customer. What is the process? Who's your point of contact? How do they resolve and investigate it? Do they get back to you within 72 hours or within 7 hours as part of your SCAR system, your Supplier Corrective Action report for that based on regulatory requirements? So you need to ask those information as well. And after that is, do they issue CAPA and what are their preventive measures? And within that corrective actions for the customer complaint, not just on resolving it, do they have a training program to retrain their team or that particular department or that particular person that had caused, via root cause the situation that occur? What does that look like as part of their prevention, or in this case, you being a PCQI, preventive controls? Okay, system verification. So on the system verification, do they have a quality management system, for that, such as a GFSI or ISO standard or any applicable GFSI system or quality management system? If it's made in-house, is it under HACCP or GMP? But the most important part on this one is having a QMS, whatever system that they're using, and that's when you're going to have to take a look at that. But what I suggest, if you're outsourcing this stuff, you have to have your own. You have to have your own standards so you can then go in. And if it's something's missing from your co-manufacturer or co-packing partner, you can then assist them in implementing it. Let's say they have a weakness in one type of program, like their verification and validation activities. So if you prepared yours, you're very well aware. Now remember, I know this is not your facility, but it's your product. So you got to treat it as such that this co-manufacturing and co-packing is your full partner, right? It's just another division of your brand. So you really need to work with them on that part of it. Okay, part of that is handling non-conformances on the QMS. What are the expectations and continuous improvement on the quality management system? Next is the HACCP and food safety plan. Do they have prerequisite programs implemented? And are they scheduled? And same thing with the internal audits. What does that look like? Now, some system, they perform internal audit quarterly, so depending on the certification standards that they're under, some of them just once a year. But what is your program, right? This is your co-packer, co-manufacturer. And if you have hired a QA person that's going to be on site, what is their internal audit function while they're there? Remember, they're there weekly or during your production run. Are they just twiddling their thumb, waiting there until they get called by production to kind of check certain things? Or what is their proactivity? Or are they just going to remain reactive? Basically just waiting there, looking pretty and nice and proper, and just kind of like, they just jump and react to certain things? Or are they going to be proactive on preventive controls? So that's something that you need to put together on your protocols. Facility audit, what is the reporting part of that on personnel's responsibility and the activity audited? So keep an eye out on that. On the internal audits, obviously you're gonna see some observation for that part of it, and you're going to take a look at those corrective actions. Are they being corrected in a timely manner? That's one thing you want to take a look at. And then when it comes to the food safety and quality, and you're including the HACCP and food safety plan and the PRPs, for that. Take a look at the the hygiene practices, if they're being assessed as well, and all of the internal audits are being, they have scheduled. On the system verification, also take a look at conditions for the food productions. So are all the PRP and verification and validation activities, being monitored for that and performed. And then some inspections as well that you're gonna add to this part is the sanitation inspection and housekeeping and cleaning performances. Now, when I go to the facility, I actually work with sanitation that night. So I ask what time they're coming in, if they're coming in at 10 o'clock at night, at midnight and whatnot, and then I go in with them and also make an assessment in their practices so I can kind of capture some of those just for training as well. And also so I could be well aware of their practices. So if something happened, I'm not surprised concerning cross-contamination that is brought in by, that is the cause by the sanitation team if and when that's applicable. The GMP inspection, make sure that it complies with the GMP practices. Now for GMP, I'm going to make videos, for those as part of our food safety management system instruction. So just keep an eye out on those, and those are going to be breaking down in every single part. But if you have your own checklist, take a look at it and just keep improving it, PCQIs, right? So because every time you use it, you see something different and you gain a new technique. Document that and keep improving your checklist. Okay, and the last part of this is those inspection checklists or verification activities. Are they going to be shared with you? Remember, right? You're just a brand owner. Is that something that you want to review and assess? And some brand owner they don't do it, and some brand owners they do. And those brand owners are the big brand. So so if you're going to learn how to do your product continuity protocol, take a look at the big guys, right? Take a look at the big brand names. I'm not going to mention their names on it, but them. They've been around since we were children, and we've been consuming their products. Household names, right? They don't play around, right? They're there to protect their brand and their consumers. So if you want to be as big as them, you need to act like them. Okay, it's not rocket science. So okay, next part is food safety plan. So in the food safety plan, obviously, there's a lot of things you're going to take a look at. So be familiar with your HACCP or food safety plan. And this is why you're asking for that, for the HACCP or food safety plan for your co-manufacturing or co-packing partner in regards to your process. Because then you can use that as a checklist, to be asking questions with them. People always ask like, well, I know our process, they don't want to share it. Well, still be familiar with the format. So when you're talking to them, it's gonna come out as you're educated in your process, and that's really gonna have them pay attention when they're talking to you. Okay, one part of this is let's go back with process flow. So if you're picturing your HACCP plan in your head, obviously you have a process flow. Did that change? Right, and if it changed, is it going to affect your food safety plan or HACCP plan for being rewritten? That's one. And then the process narrative, where it tells a story about concerning and reflecting the process flow, and then all of your other information for your product, shelf life and storage, and all of those, all the way to your hazard analysis. Did those change? Now, sometimes the food safety team or HACCP team change, and people don't pay attention, and that is so critical, you guys. Especially when HACCP coordinator or a food safety QA person leaves. For me, that's a threat, right? So if you're looking at on a SWOT level, strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat, when somebody leaves a company, that's a flag. Okay, it could be, that person relocated because of personal reasons, or they were let go, or they had resigned and left their position. You need to ask those questions because it's now going to affect your total quality and food safety of your brand. So food safety team is one to take a look at for those key personnel. On the HACCP Food Safety Plan team, also take a look at their skills and experience, right? Make sure those are available, and their training. So remember, being qualified, you have to have the education, right? Training or experience, or a combination thereof. So they might not have the degree that you're looking for, but they might have the training and experience. So by the Code of Federal Regulation, they are considered qualified for that task. I've worked with a chemist that was a chemistry teacher, and he did not have food experience, and he deemed himself unqualified for that process until we worked with him on training him on the actual process on the facility, where he felt super comfortable in handling those processes. So it's just not because they have a degree that means they're qualified. So keep an eye out on that as a PCQI. So on this one, on the HACCP, on your HACCP team leader or food safety team leader, make sure their food safety knowledge is in depth or in line to your process. So ask those questions depending on your product, and also make sure they take their annual refresher training with your own process, because they might be handling multiple products. So you just basically ask them, in whatever that is. And I've seen it with the way they do the production run, formulation or blending, cooking, whatever your process is. They just want to make sure the team leader is very familiar and signed off on that, so there are no mishaps on the production run for your product. Prerequisite programs are monitored. The intended use of the product, make sure those are defined, right? Detailing the end users and the vulnerability group. So this is getting into your food safety HACCP plan format. I'm not gonna go this whole entire thing of what a HACCP and food safety plan is. So it's basically laid out on the checklist that I have. Just touching points. Make sure your CCPs are documented. They have records for those who performed them and verified them. And then your critical limits are identified. Now some system, they also add quality as their control point. So your QCPs are identified in these steps if you're tracking those, or your control points. And then a lot of it is also on your verification activities for this. It's also the validation part of it. So make sure that the HACCP or the food safety plan, make sure the HACCP or food safety plan is validated at least annually, or when there's changes, deviation that's been applied, make sure that you're revalidating your food safety / HACCP plan. Next part of this is regulatory inspection. So on this part of it, if the facility is USDA, obviously they're there. If it's an FDA facility, if there's been, FDA is very active, as we are well aware, and they go out and do these type of facility inspection. Make sure you are aware of that, and you are informed, and all of those notification for those regulatory inspection that you're notified in this part, because like I said, they're your co-manufacturing and your co-packing partner. During the regulatory inspection, as a PCQI, take a look at that and make sure all of those procedures. We have some videos, past videos, if you want to watch those. The thing is just make sure you have procedures of how to perform that. Mainly if it's my product and you're my co-manufacturing, co-packing partner, I want something there that if FDA decided to grab some of my samples to test via third-party lab and whatnot, for certain things. So I want to know that because it's going to affect me as well as getting notified because it's my brand, right? It's our product, so it's going to affect me as a brand owner wearing that hat, right? So I really wanted to know about that as well. Incoming materials, obviously you're going to have your certificates of compliance that you're going to want to be collected, certificate of analysis. Do they have out of standards or out of specification program, and how are those communicated? What are the appropriate quarantining or hold procedures? Are those written out? For that, because it's going to affect, my process. Now, some processes, the brand itself is the one that's controlling the purchase. They might have a bigger purchasing power than the co-man or co-packing partner. They get a better discount, so they're going to handle that. So you want to make sure those are identified, or vice versa. So if you're working with a co-man that's well known in the industry, they might have a better buying power. And what would that look like when they control it, or you control those type of material ordering? And then when they come into their facility, what are your testing parameters or your acceptability protocol for those? So you need to work with them, for that, for the incoming materials. Now, for the incoming materials, this is also gonna go side by side with your HACCP as part of your process narrative and hazard analysis. For this, like I've said plenty of times in the video, I love SOPs and protocols. So I write the procedures of how to receive my raw materials. So when they come in, that technician in that warehouse knows how to handle it, how to put it on hold, how QC is going to release it. And if I'm testing for, let's say, Listeria, if my product is RTE, and I want to control my Listeria as part of my Listeria monitoring controls in receiving, I'm going to write that up. When to test, frequency to test. I'm going to ask my supplier to test for Listeria before sending it to me. I want them to do all of those things before it goes to the facility that I'm working with, so I can segregate that process. So if there's a Listeria issue on my finished product, I already segregated those 2 points, and I'm no longer going to involve my supplier because I know, I've done my due diligence on that, but now it's in the facility side, so there are no excuses. Now, if you don't have those identified, please do so, okay? So you might, you're going to have a lot of pushback on these PCQIs, right? So you're going to have to write all of these things down. Now, on receiving protocol, it's not that cumbersome. Once you write one, it's easy to replicate it with your other raw materials or ingredients that are coming in. It's the same parameters, or it could be similar, and you just have to tweak it, for that process. But if you need help for those, we write those all the time. For our clients, let us know, okay? info@consultairinc.com is where you can contact us, as well as in our website. All right, so in the incoming materials, same thing. Now, in the incoming materials, this runs with your supplier approval program. So if you are controlling it, or your co-manufacturer, co-packing partner, and they're buying ingredients from overseas, obviously, please comply, right, for FSVP. If you're not taking the foreign supplier verification program seriously, please consider it. Go to the FDA website, go to the warning letter issuance section, and type in FSVP. It's weekly PCQI. There, I'm reading off on them. I see them and I get notified. And FDA will park their investigator in your process for 3 to 5 days. It's no kidding. It's not a scare tactics or whatnot. This is what we're seeing, and these are the type of phone calls we're getting for that. We specifically get audited by FDA on FSVP pretty much every week or every other week for our clients that comes in, basically asking us to put those together for them. Please put your FSVP program together, and as a brand owner, you're going to want to have copies for that. Now, if you're the one that's ordering your materials from an overseas provider and sending it to your co-man, co-packing partner, you are going to need to comply with FSVP, okay? And like I said, we'll go over that in a other video. All right, next step of this hunt is, and considering our co-man and co-packers, is product evaluation. So on the product evaluation, obviously we need to take a look at the evaluating the product for defects on a routine basis, and what does that look like for your defects action levels. And then you have a product evaluation systems that you might want to take a look at based on quality action reviews. You're going to want to meet with the QA team on this one with your co-man and co-packer, and kind of identify the review frequency, the review area, and the responsible personnel that's going to be attached to your quality audit or quality checks, for the quality action reviews. And then what type of review criteria you're going to be putting together with them, evaluating and rating of the products and whatnot, and things like that. Okay, and part of this is if discrepancies are observed, what are the action items for those, and you're going to want to address those. And then you're going to have some controls for that. Like, for example, your finished product is supposed to look like this. It's in a box, it's in nice and pretty, and it's all fully packaged. It has your lot coating and all of those particulars that you have. So you might want to have that prepared as control so they can see that. If you have a product that's being baked or going through a kill step or a heat treatment, and it shrinks, it changes in colors, you might want to have those digital photos or photo references. What would that look like for you to accept that product based on, could be the size, the color, and things like that, because things change during production. So you want to get those basically identified, okay? And then what happens when they don't meet those? What is the disposition for that product? Obviously, we have the accountability and make sure everything is accounted for on the accounting part of it. But are they reprocessing, reworking? They're just basically gonna weigh it and throw it away, or what does that look like? So you might want to identify those. And then there's a lot more steps to this. So I'm just gonna skim through it. PCQI. So if you need some help putting these checklists together, and also training on the facility side, let me know so we can put those together. Okay. So and part of that, let me just look at here, is organoleptic as well for your QAR, because it's a quality related. So you're gonna want to identify those criteria for you. Contact us, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Thanks again, PCQIs. Have a good one.